Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Palava Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallava Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shatashishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shatashishimad His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Garantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10, entitled Liberation. And we're reading, Canto 9 entitled Liberation. The Chapter 10 is entitled, it doesn't say the name here, but it's on the past tense of Lord Ramachandra. Text 27. Oh, it's the past tense of Lord Ramachandra, yes. All right, text 27. Navai Veda Mahabhaga Bhavam Kama Vasangataha Tejo Nubhavan Sitaya Jenanito Dasham Imam Navai Veda Mahabhaga bhavam kama vasham gataha teyonu bhavan sitaya yena nito dasham imam navai veda mahabhaga bhavam kama vasham gataha teyonu bhavan sitaya yena nito dasham imam. Let's read. Na, not, vai, indeed, Veda, did know, Mahabhaga, O greatly fortunate one, Bhabam, yourself, Kamabhasham, influenced by lusty desires, Gataha, having become, Teyaha, by influence, Anubhavam, as a result of such influence, Sitayaha, of Mother Sita, Yena, by which Nitaha, brought into Dasham, condition, Imam, like this, destruction. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. O greatly fortunate one, you came under the influence of lusty desires and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita. Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to this state, having been killed by Lord Ramachandra. Purport. Not only was Mother Sita powerful, but any woman who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita can also become similarly powerful. There are many instances in the history of Vedic literature. Whenever we find descriptions of ideal chaste women, Mother Sita is among them. Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, was also very chaste. Similarly, Draupadi was one of the five exalted chaste women. As a man must follow great personalities like Brahma and Narada, a woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, and Draupadi. By staying chaste and faithful to her husband, a woman enriches herself with supernatural power. It is a moral principle that one should not be influenced by lusty desire by another's wife. Matrat para dhareshu. An intelligent person must look upon another's wife as being like his mother. This is a moral injunction from Chanika Sloka 10. Matrat para dhareshu para dravyeshu los travat. Atmavat sarvabhuteshu japashyati napsapanditaha. One who considers another's wife as his mother and another's possessions as a lump of dirt, and treats all other living beings as he will himself, is considered to be learned. End of quote. Thus Ravana was condemned not only by Lord Ramachandra, but even by his own wife Mandodari, because she was a chaste woman. She knew the power of another chaste woman, especially such a wife as Mother Sita Devi. Navai Veda Mahabhaga Babam Kama Bashangataha Tejo no Bhavan Sitaya Jena Nito Dashan Imam. O greatly fortunate one, you came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita. Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to this state, having been killed by Lord Ramachandra. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurube Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Rama Swami. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyadi Satarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So Prabhupada focused in his purport on the principle of chastity for ladies to follow. It is explained that by austerities, a man develop great powers. What is the word that Prabhupada used? In one sense, mystic powers by austerities. Similar type of mystic powers can be obtained by ladies by following the principle of chastity. And Prabhupada explains that there's many instances in Vedic history that highlights this. One that comes to mind is the wife of Dhritarashtra, who was, now I got a blank in my head. The name of the wife of Dhritarashtra is, anyone remembers? The mother of Duryodhana. Huh? No. What is her name? Huh? The mother of Duryodhana, the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. Oh, okay, it will come. She married Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra is a blind king, or a blind person. So, when she was married, she was extremely qualified, very, very beautiful princess, and it was arranged for her to be married. Bhishmadev arranged for her to be married with Dhritarashtra. The family members of this princess, that I can remember the name right now, famous personality, they were very upset. Very upset. Shakuni was the brother of her. And Shakuni became the famous manipulator that influenced Duryodhana to do all kinds of horrible things, or to enhance the enmity of Duryodhana towards the Pandavas. So Shakuni was very upset at the Kurus because of this unfair arrangement to be arranged of his sister to marry Dhritarashtra, which is blind. So there was no question for her to be a queen or something like that, because Dhritarashtra was not going to be able to be a king. So, but she accepted. She accepted that because of her amazing nature and the chastity. Once the arrangement, she saw it as an ordained arrangement, especially because Bhishma Dev, who was, this great personality, was involved. So she accepted on the condition that she will blindfold herself for life, to be in an equal platform as her husband to be. So if her husband is blind, she will make herself blind by folding, putting a blindfold. And she was true to that. She remained blind by choice through her life. And by that, she developed the mystic powers that she only opened that blindfold and opened her eyes just once for the rest of her life. And that was to actually provide with the mystic powers that she developed to make the body of Duryodhana to be as strong as iron. The pastime goes like this, that during the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Bhima was killing her sons, the sons of herself and Dhritarashtra, left and right. He had vowed to kill all the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. And then, as 99 of those sons were killed, the only one left was Duryodhana. And Gandhari, Gandhari is her name. Gandhari was mortified. So she decided she will put all her mystic powers in one glance. And she will provide this benediction of protection to Duryodhana, that wherever her glance goes upon him, whatever she sees of himself, of Duryodhana, will become as strong as iron, meaning that it can be penetrated by any weapon. It cannot be harmed by anything. And she was able to do that. However, by Krishna's arrangement and trick, although Gandhari ordered Duryodhana to come before her completely naked, so she was able to seal his whole body, Krishna happened to appear as Duryodhana is walking completely naked towards the tent of Gandhari, and then say, "What are you doing?" Duryodhana was extremely ashamed, because, this was sort of, even for, in those times, even for a demoniac person like Duryodhana, this was a very shameful act to, present yourself naked. What to speak of, present yourself naked, but present yourself naked to your mother. So Krishna, Duryodhana, what are you doing? And Duryodhana was very, very ashamed and say, I'm going to my mother. You going to your mother? What do you think how are you going to go to your mother like this? She ordered me. Come on. Use your common sense. At least cover your privates. Put a gamsha and you cover yourself. Just go naked, but at least cover your private parts. And Duryodhana, oh, yes, good idea. So he covered that part. So when Gandhari opened her eyes and put all her mystic potencies on that glance, he sealed the body of Duryodhana like iron, minus that part which was on his thigh that was covered by the gamcha. So when she saw that, she was very aggrieved. She said, why do you not able to follow my simple instruction? Now that area is vulnerable. I was not able to seal that area. Duryodhana say, well, never mind. No one can hit in that area because it's prohibited by warfare, rules. No one can hit, on the lower part like that. So he was at least, okay, at least, whatever I can be hit is going to be like steel. Nothing is going to hurt. And indeed, that was what happened when Duryodhana challenged the Pandavas. Okay, so I fight one of you, and then Yudhishthira say, you find one of us, and if you can defeat one of us, then you win the whole world, the whole war. Although Duryodhana was the only, basically, him and a handful of warriors were the only ones that were left alive from the 11 Akshohinis that he had. Everybody was dead. The only ones living so far was himself, Kripa, Charya, I think Ashwatthama, and one of the generals of the Kauravas, the general of the Yadavas, Kripa Karma, I think, the main general of the Yadavas, of the Yadus, who were fighting for the Kurus. Remember that Krishna made that arrangement. You can take my army and or me. So Duryodhana took his army, so the general of the Yadus was still alive. So it was just a handful of them. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj says this, you defeat one of us and I concede, you win. So Duryodhana, he was, okay, I'm going to fight Bhima. And he fought Bhima, and Bhima was hitting Duryodhana in the head, in the chest, and boom, nothing happened. It was like hitting a piece of steel, It doesn't matter where he hit, Duryodhana was not even touched. And eventually, Bhima started to lose. Yudhishthira and the Pandavas started to become anxious. what is happening here? Bhima is hitting him and nothing is happening. And then Krishna says, because the mystic power, the protection that Gandhari gave him. And then Krishna came with a solution. He reminded Bhima that he actually did make a vow when Duryodhana, in the assembly of the Kurus, when they were insulting Draupadi, Duryodhana called at Draupadi and say, sit in here. So he hit his thigh, come and sit in my thigh here. And Bhima say, I will vow that I will break your thigh. So Krishna reminded him that area was not protected, and then that he was killed. So the point of this story is the power, the mystical power that Gandhari developed by following chastity. And so it is explained that by Draupadi's also, who was among there's five famous women, ideal women to be followed: Sita, Devi, Mandodari, Draupadi, Gandhari, and I think the fifth one maybe is Sati, the wife of Lord Shiva, but I can't remember very clear. But I know this for sure. Gandhari is one of them. And by the insult of Draupadi, it's explained that everybody in the battlefield of Kurukshetra was meant to die, all the Kurus, and whoever was fighting along the Kurus were meant to die because of the insult to Draupadi and by Draupadi's curse. So, this is the power of chastity. So for a woman, chastity is equal that for the man is the results of austerities. However, although Prabhupada highlighted that, the thing that to me in this verse was the one that it caught my attention, was that Mandodari, as she is lamenting in the battlefield on the dead body of Ravana, and she's crying and being overwhelmed by the misfortune that have come towards the whole dynasty of Rakshasas, just by the actions of Ravana. So she's in this great lamentation and regretting, all these activities of Ravana. And in one sense, she's saying to Ravana, even your name is someone who just caused distress. So you causing all this distress, you basically destroy your whole dynasty. You're overwhelmed by lusty desires. You desire someone else's wife, but you didn't even able to see the power of a chaste woman like Sita Devi. So she's telling all these things, there's someone you're so lusty and low that cause so much suffering, that is, demoniac in nature. But he called him Mahabhagava. Mahabhaga means, oh greatly fortunate one, which is quite, like, wait. So he is influenced by lusty desires. He just destroyed his whole dynasty. He just was killed by the personality of Godhead. The fact that he was so vicious that Lord Ramachandra was just some moments ago was telling him, you're like a dog, insulting him, telling him, I will destroy you. He became the enemy. He created an enmity with Lord Ramachandra. He insulted Sita, the goddess of fortune, and was cursed by her. So all these things that are, oh my God, what a great misfortune. What a tragedy. But she addresses Ravana as Mahabhaga. Mahabhaga means the most fortunate, the greatly fortunate one. So if we see it from the material perspective, there's no explanation for them. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Of course, we know from the transcendental perspective, yes, it makes much more sense because he was killed by the personality of Godhead. And regardless if you're killed or you're blessed by the personality of Godhead, you achieve the most fortunate position. However, it does bring this difficult thing to understand, which is, so far we see in this pastime that Lord Ramachandra, the personality of Godhead, is attacking and killing his enemy, Ravana. So, it appears that the personality of Godhead has partiality, or has those who he consider his friends and those he consider his enemies. And he is partial to those who are with him and very, very strong and punishing. He said to Ravana, I will punish you. He will punish his enemies. So, we know that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Samoham sarvabhuteshu na me dveshasti na priyaha, that no one, that he's partial to everyone. That he doesn't, the verse says, he doesn't envy anyone, nor he's partial to anyone. He's impartial. He's equal to all. Samoham sarvabhuteshu, all living entities he sees equally. So, how do we explain this, that the Lord is partial to those who are his devotees and it seems to be the enemy of those who are the demons, the enemies of his devotees? He also becomes, he also takes them as their enemies. So it's not an easy thing to understand. Sometimes, it brings out. In fact, in the Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parikshit brought this doubt to Sukadev Goswami in the beginning of the 7th canto, right after the whole narrations of the Lord Vishnu siding, protecting Indra in so many ways. Then Maharaj Parikshit asked this question to Sukadev Goswami. He asked, My dear Brahmana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, being everyone's well-wisher, is equal and extremely dear to everyone. How then did he become partial like a common man for the sake of Indra and thus kill Indra's enemies? How can a person equal to everyone be partial to some and inimical towards others? Lord Vishnu himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the reservoir of all pleasures. Therefore, what benefit will he derive by siding with the demigods? What interest would he fulfill in this way? Since the Lord is transcendental, why should he fear asuras? And how could he be envious of them? So, the situation of Lord Vishnu always siding with the demigods and killing the demons it was a subject matter of confusion. And Sukadeva Goswami also, he acknowledged, yes, it is a difficult subject matter. The fact that historically Maharaj Yudhishthira asked the same question to Narada Muni. Maharaj Yudhishthira, during the Ashwamedha sacrifice that he performed when he was in Indraprastha and he was to be crowned the ruler of the whole earth, how you call the emperor. Shishupal was killed by Krishna after insulting Krishna viciously in the whole assembly where Krishna was honored as the greatest personality by the acceptance of all the people who were there. But Shishupal stood up and started to insult Krishna, and Krishna killed him. But the wonderful thing was that in front of everybody, the soul of Shishupal hovered in the air after his head was cut, and then zoom, merged into the lotus feet of Krishna. In front of everybody. Everybody was able to see that. And then Maharaj Yudhishthira, he asked Narada Muni, he said, "It is very wonderful that the demon Shishupal merged into the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though extremely envious. This Sayuya Mukti is impossible to attain even for great transcendentalists. How did the enemy of the Lord obtain it?" And within this question and within this narration is the answer that Sukadeva Goswami gave to Maharaj Yudhishthira in terms of this so-called partiality and enmity that Lord Vishnu, Krishna, displays in his pastimes. That in fact, he is partial. He is impartial. He is equal to everyone because he is transcendental. That the rise of this duality of enmity and friendship, of partiality and impartiality or enmity, this duality arise from a material approach to things. When one sees things from the perspective of the material energy, then you see dualities. So if we think, or if we see Krishna as being impartial, Krishna as being partial, or having an enmity towards someone, then we see Krishna from a material perspective. And therefore it's wrong. It's an insufficient and a wrong understanding of the personality of God, the absolute truth. Therefore, this Jamma Karma Chame Divyam, this principle of understanding that the activities of the Lord are deviant, are transcendental. Transcendental means that is beyond the actions of the modes of nature. The actions of the modes of nature create this duality, this experience of duality. Krishna is beyond that. It's transcendental to the modes of nature. It's transcendental to all these dualities, mundane dualities. So he is absolute. So therefore, when he says that he is Sruhidam Sarvabhutesu, that as the super soul, he is equal to all. And not only equal to all, but he is a supreme benefactor to all. That absolute position is always truth. And it's always truth even when Krishna is punishing. So Krishna's punishment and Krishna's blessings is on the absolute platform. It's not on the platform of duality. In the material platform, punishment is punishment, reward is reward. In the absolute platform, punishment and rewards remains the same. It's a blessing. It's Krishna's grace. And therefore, whoever is the recipient of Krishna's grace is most fortunate, regardless. So, Narada Muni answered to this observation of Maharaj Yudhisthira that this demon, he obtained salvation after being killed by Krishna. He was just punished. Now, the fact is, from the perspective that we are observing in this material world, he was extremely envious, even from the time of birth, Maharaj Yudhisthira said. Even from his childhood, he was always envious of Krishna. He couldn't say anything good about Krishna. Same with his brother Dantavakra. Both of them were extremely envious. So, how is that, with that enviousness, they could obtain this liberation that is very difficult to achieve even by transcendentalists? And Narada Muni says, in a very famous verse, he says, therefore, he explained, this is Narada Muni explained, therefore by enmity or by devotional service, by fear, by affection, or by lusty desires, by all of these or any one of them, if a conditioned soul somehow or other concentrates his mind upon the Lord, the result is the same. For the Lord, the result is the same for the Lord, because his blissful position is never affected by enmity and friendship. By devotional service, one cannot achieve such an immense absorption in thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one can through enmity towards him. That is my opinion. Wow. That one I have to think a little about. It's a pretty far out statement. I read it again. Maybe Prabhupada's purport can explain a little bit of that. Narada Muni continued, by devotional service one cannot achieve such an intense absorption in thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one can through enmity towards him. That is my opinion. Prabhupada said, Srimad Narada Muni, the topmost pure devotee, praises Krishna's enemies like Shishupal because their minds are completely absorbed in Krishna. Indeed, he thinks himself deficient in the inspiration of being feelingly absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Narada feels, that these people are so absorbed that myself, I'm not that absorbed like them. This does not mean, however, Prabhupada is clarifying for us, that the enemies of Krishna are more elevated than Krishna's pure devotee. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also thinks himself in such a humble way. Quote, I'm a worse sinner than Jagayam Madai, and I'm even lower than the worm in the stool. End of quote. A pure devotee always thinks himself more deficient than everyone else. If a devotee approaches Srimati Radharani to offer some service to Krishna, even Srimati Radharani thinks that devotee is greater than me. Thus Narada Muni says that according to his opinion, the enemies of Krishna are better situated because they are fully absorbed in thought of Krishna in terms of killing him. Just as a very lusty man always thinks of a woman and their association. We know Srila Rupa Goswami says that devotional service have to be with the mentality of to do things favorable to Krishna, in a favorable disposition. But the principle is here that the enemies as well as the devotees, they're blessed by Krishna. They're blessed by Krishna's touch. Krishna's touch is absolute. So if you're greatly fortunate to be killed by Krishna, that is, is to be appreciated and considered by everybody as most fortunate. Even Narada Muni, Narada Muni, he appreciates those enemies of Krishna were killed by Krishna, as they're so fortunate, even more fortunate than me, like that. So Mandodari is recognizing this because she's an extremely qualified personality. So she recognized the position of Sita Devi, she recognized the position of Lord Ramachandra, and thus he recognized the great fortune that Ravana had by being killed by Lord Ramachandra. Something that she doesn't have. Her position is, she is not directly being touched by Lord Ramachandra. So, but she's appreciating Ravana's position. Any comment or questions? You may have to go and get it. Huh? You get it and I get it for you. Delete it. No.
It's pretty loud. I probably don't need a mic. Hare Krishna, bro. Thank you for your class. You made a lot of wonderful points. I can't get to all of them because you made so many points, but the one point I really appreciate is that you were mentioning basically Krishna's mercy supersedes everything, essentially. And then you were also mentioning in the beginning of your class that one becomes powerful by the execution of austerity. So my comment and question is related to that point because in this purport of Bhagavatam, it says, one who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita becomes powerful. And my questions and comments related to that point because generally speaking, when we read the scriptures and when we follow principles, sometimes it's described that we can become powerful by following the principles and by following the footsteps, but sometimes we see that's not necessarily true. And I'll just give a couple examples because I'll use the example of Durvasa Muni or Sorbari Muni. They're similar in their disposition. Is that they perform principles, they perform austerities, and by their own estimation, they became powerful. Power means you have some controllership. But that's not true because when they tried to kill, when Durvasa tried to kill Ambarish, or when Sorbari Muni tried to kill Garuda, they thought by my austerities I have some powers. But then Krishna told them, actually you have no power whatsoever. So it's not by following. So my understanding from this pastime is that it doesn't matter how pure we are or how pure we think we are. If we don't have Krishna's mercy, then we have no power at all. And on the other hand, I'll just use the example of Bilva Mangal Thakur. Everyone knows that pastime where he lusts after a prostitute, or Ramananda Roy, who Lord Chaitanya told a devotee to hear from, but his character was questionable because he was massaging naked women. So from this pastime, I could see that it doesn't matter how impure we are or how impure we think we are. If we have Krishna, Shakti, Vina, then, you know, we have some power, some controllership. So my question is that how do we give up this mentality that simply by following the footsteps or simply by following some principles, we give ourselves the license? Sometimes that's what we think, oh, I give myself the license that I have powerful just because I follow in the footsteps, but that's not necessarily true. So how to give up this mentality that I have no power whatsoever. And we can see that all the devotees, they always maintain that humble disposition. It doesn't matter how many followers I have, how many, it can always be taken away. Krishna could withdraw my power like Bali Maharaj. So it seems like when we read this verse, it could put us in a lot of trouble, get us in a lot of trouble simply by following the footsteps of great devotees. We develop some power. And that, in other words, I'm not sure if you understand my question. That could get us in a lot of trouble when we read verses like this, and not have a whole spectrum of the scriptures. When we read one statement like that, oh, I'm powerful. I followed in her footsteps. I have power. I have controllership. So maybe you could explain a little bit something about that.
Sure, yeah. There's a little switch on the side. On the side. Up, yeah. If there is a process for acquiring powers, and there's mechanical. So you have the yogis, by mechanical means they acquire mystic powers. So there is means to actually progress materially and acquire powers. So similarly for ladies, you know, this principle of chastity, you know, one acquires mystic powers and material powers. You can manipulate the energy, you know, the material energy. You have certain capacity to manipulate material energy. Same with yogis, they have certain capacity to manipulate material energy. However, you can overcome material energy. You can manipulate, you can give, you know, you have more powers to manipulate certain aspect, you know, but you can. So whatever capacity we have, if it's not used for the service of Krishna, if we don't have it, if we don't have the principle clear, the Ishavasya principle, or the peace formula, Bhaktaranya Gyatapasham, if we don't understand the position of Krishna and have life that is centered, Krishna centered, then whatever powers we have, or whatever capacity, material capacity we have, regardless, from, you know, from being an ant to be a great demigod or yogi, has no value. As Prabhupada said, you can put as many zeros each one of these zeros remains zero at the end. So that's the lessons that we learn even with very powerful personalities like Durvasa Muni. He was not even able to save himself. He had to submit to the mercy of a devotee. Because the devotee now, it has value. When you put Krishna in front, then whatever amounts of zeros you accumulate, and now it becomes, a substantial number. So you can have unlimited zeros, and that unlimited zero will be equal to 1 0. So unless you put the number in front. So that's the idea. We're not interested in powers, obviously. That's what Srila Prabhupada has guided us and give us, something much greater. We're not searching for mystic powers. We're not searching for advancement materially and this and that. We're searching to actually become Krishna conscious. So then, and embracing the system that Krishna gives us. That is, he has a quota for us, and we happily accept that quota. And gratefully accept his quota for us. We know it's perfect. And we know that whatever capacity he gave us, whatever powers he gave us, whatever facility he gives, then that facility is meant to support the purpose of life, which is, jivasya tattva jigyasha, to understand the absolute truth, self-realization. So that's what we're pursuing. That's what a devotee pursues, and that's, the transcendental position that the process of Krishna consciousness gives. Otherwise, everything else is tinged with some material, pitfalls like that. And for the yogis, it's mystic powers as a material pitfall. And so, pious people, the ladies are chaste, the men are austere, but then whatever they obtain out of that piety, the result of that piety is the pitfall that they have. So they have to come back and enjoy those gifts. So that's not what a devotee look for. Is that right? Anything else? Sharja? Yeah, I think you turned it off. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, it's on.
It's on. Okay. The example that you gave of a personality that achieved mystic powers through her chastity, Gandhari, she had also undertaken an austerity as part of her expression of chastity, I guess. So would it also not in her case be that the additional austerity was a contributor to the mystic powers?
Yeah, chastity is an austerity for ladies. It requires mental control. It requires all kinds of things that calls for a very austere life. There's so many examples of, because in general, sometimes you see examples of very qualified ladies with less qualified people, like an example of Gandhari. Or you have ladies that are following a highly qualified personality. Like I think we read about Sukanya and the sage that, you know, that she poked the eye. Can't remember his name. You know, you follow, or say the example, Solenes Rompa Swami was speaking the other day about Devahuti, Mother Devahuti and Kardama Muni. She was a princess and was married to this sage who lived in the forest and who does perform austerities. And she just served, you know, she left the comforts of the palace to live in the forest, serving her husband for thousands of years. And then eventually, by that austerity that is driven by chastity, he fulfilled all her desires, and he created not only a palace but actually a whole city, flying city for her. So yeah, the austerity the chastity drives the austerity, like that, for the ladies. I think it's a different, it's a slightly different principle for men. It's almost just the desire to this sacrifice and duty or that type of thing is the principle is the same for both, but it have that flavor, the different flavor. I don't know if I'm explaining it. Yeah. So with the woman takes this form of chastity, and it does create very strong women. That the fact when you see a chaste lady, it's almost immediately there is certain element that just attract respect. You know, people, you know, you don't touch a chaste lady, you know. It's like, it's almost like they're untouchable. You know, it creates that, you know. Create that type of potency and respect. Same when you see an austere person, a very, type of renunciant, then it creates that sense of respect too. So that's how I see it. Anyway, thank you so much. Garantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.